I recently completed my first iron butt, saddle sore, and long distance rider full throttle challenges, and in this video I'd like to take you along with me on my journey, share my experiences, and maybe inspire some of you to attempt your own adventure. Hello everyone, I'm Hong. Welcome back to the channel. Let me preface this video by saying that this challenge isn't for everyone. I have many friends who have completed this and even more demanding challenges, but also a lot of friends who find such rides pointless. All I can say is to each his or her own. Everyone is entitled to their opinions and preferences. For me, it was purely for the love of riding. There are people who prefer to ride off-road trails. There are people who prefer to ride on racing circuits, B-roads, freeways, etc. Don't let what other people say stop you from doing what you enjoy. Don't let what other people say affect how you feel about what you ride, how you ride, where you ride, unless, of course, it relates to safety. Aside from sharing with all of you the sights I saw and some of the exciting moments from my ride, in this video I'll also be showing all my fuel stops as a sort of a log of my journey. I started planning for this challenge many months back, in fact almost a year, creating multiple route options on Google Maps, knowing that factors such as weather and traffic conditions are fluid and unpredictable. I also had a checklist of all the things I brought with me for the journey. More on that later in the video. Alright, let's get going. I was initially planning to sleep by 9 p.m. the night before and start the adventure at 4 a.m. But by the time I finished prepping my bike and gear, it was later than I would have liked, and I would rather be well rested. I think this is an extremely important factor because the entire journey can be pretty tiring. Regardless if you choose to do only freeways or if you're like me, opting to make it more difficult or, in my words, more exciting than it needs to be. Truth be told, there are better ways to enjoy a ride, less expensive ways to experience freedom, easier ways to complete such a challenge, and less exhausting ways to overcome stress. I also chose to do this challenge solo because while I do enjoy the occasional group rides, I personally enjoy riding solo significantly more. Sometimes in life, it's just more rewarding to seek out adventure. So I managed to get about 5.5 hours of sleep, pushed off at 5 a.m. and arrived at Geylang Patah in Johor, Malaysia shortly before 6 a.m. on May 29th. After a coffee, energy bar, and double checking that everything is secured properly to my bike, I filled up my tank at precisely 0645, marking the official start time of the challenge. In a nutshell, I planned my entire journey as a loop and split my ride into 3 segments. The first segment was solely freeways, starting from Geylang Patah to Penang. The second segment was predominantly mountainous and twisty plantation backroads, while the third and final segment was back onto freeways. This was intentional from the very beginning because I really wanted to ride the iconic Federal Route number 4 in North Malaysia, and knowing that I'll most likely be tired on the return trip back onto the freeways for the final segment, as I wanted to be on familiar roads. Aside from a brief yet heavy thunderstorm shortly after sunrise, which for the fourth or fifth time in my entire life forced me to pull over to wear a raincoat, this northbound ride was good and relatively uneventful. My plan was to stop for gas every 150 to 160 kilometers or so, as the 13-liter fuel tank on my Fat Bob wasn't exactly designed for long-distance rides.
Sound of the breeze carrying us away. Dust in the rear view, free as a bird. This is our time, no matter what they say. Every mile behind only brought us here. Now the road is clear. Shotgun ride on my Friday night. Sunset fire burning in our eyes. Let's see the past in the past and deal with it another day. All we got is this open road. No plans, just a cranked up radio. Ain't promising forever, ain't no end in sight. Girl, I'm loving the ride. You know I'm loving the ride. Can't you feel this is real, you and me? Nothing in our way. Baby, we were born to run. Take a back road, let's make a great escape.
So I parked my bike under the tree for a little bit of shade because the sun's out and it's getting really hot. And I get pooped on by some birds. It's like a bird poo on me. It's supposed to be good luck, I guess. I'll take it as good luck.
Cause this life moves fast and we can't stop time. So put your hand in mine. Shotgun ride on my Friday night. Sunset fire burning in our eyes. Let's leave the past in the past. Deal with it another day. All we got is this open road. No plans, just a cranked up radio. Ain't promising forever, ain't no end in sight. Girl, I'm loving the ride. Don't matter where we're going, don't matter what we do, long as we got each other, just me and you. Shotgun ride on my Friday night. Sunset fire burning in our eyes. Let's leave the past in the past and deal with it another day. All we got is this open road. No map, just the stars to light the road. Ain't promising forever, ain't no end in sight. Oh, nothing lasts forever, but we can sure as hell try. Girl, I'm loving the ride. You know I'm loving the ride. Oh yeah, I'm loving. Oh girl, you know I'm loving the ride. Oh yeah, I'm loving. Oh girl, you know I'm loving the ride. Oh yeah, I'm loving the ride.
Alright, so I've completed about 480 kilometers. It's 12:40 right now. So I left the Gilampata Petronas gas station at 6:45 a.m. 6 hours, 480 kilometers. I think I'm on target. So my next stop would be at Harley Davidson Penang, where I'm going to pop in real quick to pick up some poker chips and then be on my way. It's a hot day. Better than the rain though.
There's so much trouble in the world today. There's so hard to get ahead, yeah. Wishing my worries would just go away. Nothing seems to clear my weary head. I take a drink after work, maybe a smoking too. Only leaves me wanting more. Need something real that can satisfy me. Look, you just walk through the door. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. When I can hold you close, there's nothing better than to have you by my side. I can tell by the way you're looking at me, we ain't gotta worry 'cause we're meant to be. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. Too much distraction, too much going on. It's so hard to pay attention. Oh, it makes me wanna lose my phone. Too much BS to mention. Try to fill my cup, I try to measure up. Nothing seems to satisfy. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. When I can hold you close, there's nothing better than to have you by my side. I can tell by the way you're looking at me, we ain't gotta worry 'cause we're meant to be. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. When I can hold you close, nothing better than you by my side. I can see it in your eyes, ain't no surprise. Love, it comes so easy, we don't have to try. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. When I'm alone with you, everything is alright. Oh yes it is. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, just you and me, nobody else, nothing better than having you to myself. Just you and me, nobody else, nothing better than having you to.
I first stopped at Pago in Johor, followed by Dungkil in Selangor, past the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, followed by another stop in Tampa, Perak, past Ipoh before arriving in Penang at 2:45 in the afternoon. Traffic was fairly smooth considering how it was a holiday weekend and took me exactly 8 hours to complete 687 kilometers. I used to drive up to Penang for work at least twice a year. While I haven't done that in a long time, it did make the trip slightly more predictable. I had a brief stopover at Harley Davidson Penang where I picked up a few poker chips before continuing on with my journey. At this point, instead of merely riding up and down the North-South Highway just to complete the 1610 kilometer challenge within 24 hours, I turned east toward Kupang. While it was a pretty short ride to Kupang, it was imperative to fuel up here before embarking on the twisty mountain roads of Route 4. This was where I had my first exciting moment, as the gas station I marked out on my map didn't sell RON 97 gas. For those of you who are watching from outside Southeast Asia, the Malaysian government no longer permits the sale of RON 95 gas to foreign vehicles. Thankfully, the third gas station I found sold both RON 95 and RON 97 gas. Third time's the charm. I was grateful that I didn't have to seek assistance from anyone else. So I filled up my tank to the very brim, had a third coffee for the day, and pushed off.
She don't need promises, she just wants the truth. She brings the calm just like a quiet prayer fills the room. Kisses like Sunday, fights like Friday night. And I'd go to hell and back just to hold her tight. She slips right through my hands. up like nothing's changed. Yeah, she's wild when she wants, like she's never coming down. There's a storm in her blood, but I see heaven in her brown eyes. It kills me every time. She don't belong to anyone, but she's a little bit mine. Dancing like no one's watching, barefoot spinning round. Firecracker 4th of July, she's moving at the speed of sound. She makes it look so easy as she walks away. Can't help but wonder what will make her stay. She slips right through my hands. Wonder if she'll ever change. Yeah, she's wild when she wants, like she's never coming down. There's a storm in her blood, but I see heaven in her brown eyes. Oh, it kills me every time. Yeah, she don't belong to anyone, but she's a little bit mine. Yeah, a little bit mine.
Alright, so a little bit of bad luck. This gas station does not have RON 97, only RON 95, and foreign vehicles are not allowed to pump RON 95 in Malaysia. So I've got about 200 kilometers range left. That's not accurate, probably about 160 realistically. So hopefully we find another gas station on the way. All part of the adventure. Let's go.
Just a little bit mine.
Ah, shit. I think all the gas stations here only do RON 95 and not RON 97.
Beside the fire, staring at the flames. Getting tired of always feeling the same, but I guess I had it coming. 'Cause I'd be lying to say you're the problem. I shouldn't be thinking, but I can't help myself, you know. Been counting every day since you walked out that door. I just wanted to come home. Don't know how to let you go, so I'm drinking whiskey on my own. like when you were driving. Sunlight hit your face and you'd smile at me. Damn, what I'd give to be, yeah, back in that car with the sunset behind us. I shouldn't be talking, but I can't help myself, you know. Been counting every day since you walked out that door. I just want you to come home. Don't know how to let you go. So I'm drinking whiskey on my own. I'm drinking whiskey on my own. Yeah, and I'd be lying to say you're the problem. I shouldn't be calling, but I can't help myself, you know. Been counting every day since you walked out the door. And I can't help myself, you know. Been counting every day since you walked out the door. And I just want you to come home. Don't know how to let you go. So I'm drinking whiskey on my own. I ain't afraid of the dark. 'Cause once you let the light in, you won't see the beautiful stars shining down from afar. No, I ain't afraid of the dark. I don't mind the rain, bringing life back. We can breathe again when dealing with the pain. No, I don't mind the rain. And ooh, that's the way it goes. Life will teach you what you need to know. And ooh, like a river flows, life will take you where you need to go. Getting old don't bother me, 'cause with eyes that's been through life, it's so much easier to see who I am and who I wanna be. No, getting old don't bother me. Truth can be a bitter pill, but it'll do you right and set you free the way a lie never will. Like climbing up the steepest hill, but truth can be a bitter pill. And ooh, that's the way it goes. Life will teach you what you need to know. And ooh, like the river flows, life will take you where you need to go.
As I mentioned at the start of the video, my primary destination as a part of my challenge was the iconic Route 4, which cuts across the Central Forest Spine and the Royal Belum State Park. This scenic, twisty mountain road is without doubt one of the most spectacular routes in Malaysia. It connects the east and west coasts of the peninsula and passes through the Titiwangsa mountain range, with mountain peaks such as the Gunung Korpu in Perak that stands at 2,183 meters high, making it the highest point of the range. While the elevation of Route 4 didn't go that high, it still featured elevations over 1,000 meters above sea level, with windy roads that snake through lush, dense and pristine rainforests. The route is also well known for wildlife such as elephants and tigers, who were all hiding from me due to the sporadic rain which started the moment I began my climb. While the damp roads made travel slow, it allowed me to soak in the crisp mountain air and enjoy the sights. As I got higher in elevation, the sea of clouds, or wan hoi as we say in Cantonese, rolled in with the rain, making the ride almost dream-like. And by the time I was making my way down, I was treated to a magnificent rainbow and a breathtaking sunset. It was mesmerizing to say the least, and for some interesting and unexplainable reasons, made my entire journey feel transformative. It was as if my soul was cleansed. By the time I completed Route 4 and arrived at the town of Jelly, my legs felt like jelly. The sun had also set and the rain seemed to have let up ever so slightly. I was initially aiming to arrive at the coastal city of Kota Baru, but since I had already completed 934 kilometers of the journey and was behind schedule, I decided to take my plan B route instead. So I turned south and headed for Gua Musang via routes 66 and D29. These two routes stretched approximately 113 kilometers and were extremely challenging as it was predominantly mountainous plantation backroads, sparsely populated, and thanks to the rain that decided to return, there were very few vehicles on the road. It was also completely dark for the most part, which made the journey even more exciting. I did pull over to the side of the road when passing a small village to swap out my cardo, which had been running for well over 14 hours, as well as to put on a rain sock for my air intake as the rain got heavier. Upon arriving in Gua Musang, which is also home to the world-renowned Musang durian or Mao San Wong Lao Lin, I had only about 550 kilometers with 8 hours remaining, which gave me a short burst of energy despite the rain. From here, I continued south toward the Genting Highlands via routes 8 and 34. So by the time I arrived at the foot of Genting Highlands and the darkest of roads I've ever traveled on behind me, I was finally back on familiar territory. I had completed 1,252 kilometers and had just under 5 hours remaining on the clock. In spite of the rain that followed me from the mountain ridges of the Central Forest Spine in North Malaysia, keeping me completely drenched for at least 9 hours or so, my spirit was high as I had achieved all my objectives and was less than 400 kilometers away from my final stop. I was under the impression that this third and final segment of my journey would be stress-free. And by the time I descended from Genting Highlands, skirted past the city of Kuala Lumpur before reconnecting onto the North-South Highway, I had settled into a state of calm. I started thinking about the hot shower, hot food, and my fluffy pillow waiting for me back at home. I made some mental calculations as well if I wanted to complete the remaining journey with a 1 or 2 stop strategy. I decided to push the limits of my fuel consumption and made the decision to just stop one final time at Tangkak, which was about 172 kilometers away from my final destination, instead of making 2 stops at Seramban and Machap. Zing, 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 zing. However, 3 hours before my deadline, a problem popped up after my fuel stop in Tangkak. Just as I was about to push off for the final 180 or so kilometers, my fat bob kicked up an error code. The bike entered limp mode and I had to literally limp at a maximum speed of 55 kilometers per hour on the shoulder lane for about 35 kilometers till the next rest stop. Once I arrived at the Pago rest stop with less than 2 hours remaining on the clock and 130 kilometers to go, after trying to restart the bike repeatedly, I came this close to giving up. I had already started to plan for a tow truck and my extraction. And just as I was about to make that phone call, I decided to try one last time. Thankfully, the bike roared gloriously back to life. A quick check at the GPS showed that I could arrive at my planned final destination at 0638 hours, 7 minutes before the deadline. So I pushed off into the thunderstorm as cautiously as I could. During the final 50 or so kilometers, I began to worry that I may not make it on time. While my energy levels were recharged with adrenaline, I refused to speed up due to the rain. At this point, I made a few calculations and realized I would still be able to complete the challenge if I ended my ride at a nearer gas station in Skudai instead of heading back to my starting point in Geylang Patah. I arrived at about 0625 hours, gave the gas attendant my credit card, filled up and collected my last receipt at precisely 0629 hours, completing my 1626 kilometer journey with 16 minutes to spare. I made a total of 13 scheduled stops, 12 to refuel and 1 to visit Harley Davidson Penang. On top of that, 7 unscheduled stops. Now, based on my post-ride calculations, if it wasn't for the unforeseen delays such as the gas station not selling raw 97 gas, inclement weather, and my bike entering limp mode, I would have probably completed my challenges about 3 to 4 hours earlier. Being on the road for such a long duration isn't easy, regardless of how experienced you are, and regardless if you're doing it my way or you're doing it the highway. So if you're planning to embark on something similar, here are some important things to prepare. Number one, have sufficient rest. This goes without saying because you're not going to have the chance to rest much when you're on the road. You'll also want to be both physically and mentally prepared. Number two, stay properly hydrated throughout the entire journey, even if the weather is cool and you're not perspiring. Number three, ensure that your bike is operating without issues, and to ensure that consumables such as your brake rotors and pads, engine oil, tires, brake fluid, all that good stuff are capable of the journey. Number four, plan your route and also plan for alternative plan B and plan C routes. You never know what the weather and traffic conditions could be like on the day of your journey. Aside from all your essentials such as your passport, credit cards, cash, bring along extra gear if you can, such as an extra t-shirt, extra pair of socks, and rain gear. Even if it isn't raining, having a rain jacket could help protect you from wind or cooler temperatures. Ultimately, safety is without a doubt the single most important factor. If you're running behind schedule or if you're feeling too tired to carry on, stop. This isn't a race and there is nothing to prove to anyone. Alright, so here's a look at some of the gear I brought with me on my trip. If you guys feel like I should add other stuff into it, do let me know in the comments. Alright, let's take a look at all the gear I'll be taking with me. I've got my tire repair kit, zip ties, a multi-tool and duct tape. All that good stuff goes into that pouch, along with the visor cleaner and the cloth. Toilet paper, this is such an essential item a lot of people tend to forget to bring. This is my Insta360 X4, extra batteries for my DJI Action 5 Pro, the keys to my Fed Bob, cell phone with the routing and all stored into the phone, passport, international driving permit, a second cardo, I've got one on my helmet and the second one that's fully charged in the bag, my wallet, handlebar clamp for the camera, power bank, Malaysian ringgit and Singapore dollars because cash is king, two little lead gear pouches where I'll be putting these stuff into, spare change t-shirt, extra pair of long socks, and my Kriega bag which will be mounted onto my sissy bar. And that's pretty much it. I hope this video could in some way motivate or inspire those of you who aren't riding yet to start. And if you're already riding, to continue riding and to never stop if you have a love and passion for it. Finally, a very special shout out to my friends Elvin, Benjamin, Dulce, Kelvin, and Max for accompanying me in our WhatsApp group chat from the very start till the very end. If you've enjoyed the video, please do consider to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the roads.